You guys want some pasta? Piece for Tinkerbell. You were here last, Nico. Piece for Kiba. Ow. And here you go, Mickey. Hello, my name is Kate and welcome to Habits of a Modern Hippie. I have been all over Instagram lately and a lot of you have been requesting super simple recipes that you can make at home when you are social distancing, thus quarantining, all of that fun but not so fun stuff that gives you the opportunity to cook a little bit more. A lot of you are new to things like bread baking, which I just did a video about, or pasta making, which is what this is about. So I figured I would go through an incredibly simple pasta recipe that can work for you. If you do like videos like this, or videos like my little, I don't know if you can see her, there's a puppy on the floor back there, about dogs, go ahead and give this a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. But let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to put this disclaimer out there before we start. I am not Italian. I do not want any sweet old Italian grandmothers to come for me. I wouldn't say that this is a classic pasta recipe, but it's the one that I've been using for years. I have lived in Italy and I have made pasta in Italy with Italian chefs, but the whole shebang is different when I'm here at home and making what's easy for me. So this recipe is really easy to switch up and change if you need to. But quick little recipe overrun. You need 3 eggs, room temperature. I just took these out of the coop, so they're the temperature of my house. If you guys don't know, I have backyard chickens, which is where I get my eggs. You'll need flour, 2 cups of flour. I like to use a mix of semolina and unbleached organic all-purpose. You can use whatever you want. I've never made this with gluten-free flour, so don't know how that works. I'm not a gluten-free person, so no idea. But you can substitute a little bit for like whole wheat if you want to. That is going to change the texture, but I like 1/2 semolina, 1/2 all-purpose. That's how I go. And then the last thing you'll need is some salt. And that's it. So we've got 3 eggs, 2 cups of flour, and about a heaping teaspoon of salt. And that's the recipe. All right, apron on, and we are ready to go. So to start out, we're going to use our 2 flours. I'm going to take a cup of each one of those and put it onto a clean work surface. So I'm going to take those 2 flours and gently mix them together. You want to keep them all kind of in the same place on your worktop, but it's going to be helpful if you pre-mix them before this happens. It doesn't have to be anything perfect. You don't have to like get out your sifter or anything like that, but you just want to make sure that they are nice and mixed together. And then once that happens, pop them all into one mound. You want to have that mound, and then I'm going to use the back of my hand and just make a little well in there. And that well is for where our eggs are going to go. So I'm going to take whole eggs. That's the recipe that I use. I know some are just egg yolks, but I prefer the whole shebang. So I'm just going to crack these and pop them right into that well in the center. And I'm going to use a fork, do a little mix with these eggs in the center, and then slowly we will incorporate those eggs into the flour. And this is the part that is going to take the absolute longest. Once those eggs are slightly mixed, you take that fork out, and I'm just going to use all of that and combine. So you're going to want to mix. It's going to get into a crumbly texture. One of the things that I like to do when mixing is take the mixture in my hands and just stick it through my fingers so everything mixes well. Your hands are going to get sticky and gross. It is just the way of life when it comes to pasta. If you really don't want to do that, you can do this in a food processor. I just tend to like to do it by hand because I can feel the moisture content a lot more. But we are just going to slowly mix all of these guys together. And as you're mixing, you're going to want to form a ball, and then I go ahead and break open the pasta because a lot of times this dough is wet in the middle, and you can just pick up some more of the flour and incorporate. This takes a long time, so you have to be patient. Now at any time, if you feel like all of the flour does not want to incorporate at all and you just didn't have enough moisture in your eggs, that is totally fine. You just wet your hands. Nothing like, you're not gonna like bring a puddle of water over it with you, but just wet your hands, and you can use the wetness of those hands to incorporate slightly more moisture into the pasta, and you can see that happening. It gets a little bit more sticky and a little bit more yellow, and use just that tiny bit of moisture to go ahead and pick up some more flour and incorporate. Now, kneading pasta dough takes a long time. You're looking for a silky satin texture, and if your pasta dough is still feeling grainy and bumpy, it just means you need to knead more and more. See how this is rough and you can't like drag your finger across it? This means it's not quite ready. So I have kneaded this into a ball, and you'll be able to tell when it's finished kneading when that satin texture comes. So you can actually take a thumb, and when you pet it, essentially, your thumb is going to slide right off the top of that. If it still feels like it's super bumpy, has any grain in it or anything like that, just keep kneading until it goes nice and soft. After it is done kneading, it is time to wrap this up and let it rest for between 30 to 45 minutes, kind of whichever one you're more patient with, for the gluten to develop. So you can use something like saran wrap. I prefer beeswax, so if you've got that in the house, that's perfect. But I'm just going to wrap this up and leave it here. And we are back, so I'm going to go ahead and unwrap the pasta that has been sitting for 45 minutes now. You might have noticed that my station looks a little bit different. These are all of the things I use, but all you need is a rolling pin and a knife. But what I use, because I make pasta so often, is one, I have an actual pasta maker. This one is imported from Italy. It's Imperia, but you can get that on Amazon. I'll pop the link down below. This is an actual like pasta sheet roller, and then I have, it has spaghetti and linguine as well. So if you have a pasta maker, amazing. If you don't, totally cool. The other thing here is a drying rack. This once again is not something you absolutely need. I love it because it dries them in like little strips, and so this is my last batch of pasta that I made maybe like 2 days ago. So you can drape your pasta noodles over here, but if you are making pasta and you're gonna pop it straight into the pot, obviously you don't need a drying rack. And you can use a lot of different things for a drying rack. As long as it's wood and food grade, you should be good to go. So I'm gonna leave this here, and now that our pasta dough is ready, you can either split it into 2 or 4, whatever feels good for you. Look at that stretch. You know it's ready when the gluten likes to hold together. That's going to make it really easy for when you're starting to roll out sheets. So I'm going to break this up into 4. And as you are working, you want to make sure that your pasta dough stays moist. And so while it's broken up into 4, I'm going to put it back in that little beeswax, the last 3 pieces, and just work with the one that is out. So to start off, I am going to take this quarter of the dough and just start rolling the crap out of it. At any point in time, if this starts to feel like sticky, it's sticking to the counter, it's sticking to your hands, use more flour. You can use a ton of it, it's totally fine. But because this one has been sitting for a while and had the right amount of flour in it, it's not sticky or tacky, it should be able to roll without any extra flour. Now, I don't have to roll this too thin, I just have to roll it thin enough so it fits in the biggest setting on my pasta machine. If you don't have a pasta machine, keep rolling this until it gets so thin that if it puffs up, it's still going to be the right size. So the thinnest you can get it without it breaking is the way to go. And I'm not going to do that totally here, mainly because I am going to use the pasta machine. But if you have gotten it to the thinnest you possibly can, all you're going to do is just cut those strips all the way down. So because this isn't rolled out, obviously this is a lot shorter than a noodle would be, but cut those strips and your pasta is literally ready to just chuck this in some boiling salted water. However, if you are using a pasta machine, I'm going to go ahead and put this to the biggest setting. I have my machine is screwed on to the counter. You need this. Pasta machines are hardy and they're gonna move when you crank them. So I'm gonna take a sheet of my pasta, I'm gonna put it on the biggest setting and just roll it down through. And you want to make sure that these get as smooth as possible. If you did knead correctly, there shouldn't be too many lines in this after you have rolled it out. But if you do spot lines, you just fold it into thirds, 1 and 2, smooth it out, and then you pop that right back into your machine. Then each time this is nice and smooth and goes through your machine, you pop it to the next level. Don't skip levels, it's just gonna mess you up, it's gonna get stuck in the machine, it will not do well for you. So you're gonna keep on cranking. Next level. And you'll see as you roll, this pasta dough is going to get exceptionally long. So this is only the third stage, and you saw how small that started. So we're going on to 4. And remember, you want to keep this long. So the reason why this is getting so long is that these are going to drape over your drying rack. You can have pasta that stays nice here, but oftentimes it's going to break. So you'll only have a noodle that's this long instead of a noodle that is double that. So the longer you can make these noodles, the more fun and the longer your noodles are going to be. And if they are getting too long, like this is not ready, you just chop them in half. And you can do the same thing. Now this is on the last level. We're gonna send this through, and you wanna make sure that your edges stay nice and sharp. So when you make actual noodles, they will be straight and won't break apart. So we have long, almost see-through pasta sheets, and I will show you how thick that makes the noodles later. But I'm going to cut off this little tail here, and you just add that to the next mix and we'll use it again. But I'm cutting off the tail. I'm going to slide my linguine attachment onto here. Also, if you have a KitchenAid, they have wonderful attachments that pop right into the front of your KitchenAid, and you can make pasta sheets and pasta noodles in there as well. But my little Kitchen Imperia made in Italy pasta machine has a removable handle. We're just going to pop that into the linguine. I'm going to put it up my arm, and we are going to slowly and very carefully send that pasta sheet through. And we will come out with beautiful noodles. And these are ready to be dried or ready to be popped straight into boiling water and for you to eat. So you can see how thick these guys are. And as you can see, that made a ton. So all of this pasta plus what I just cooked is all from that one batch. So there is plenty to go around. This pasta dough also freezes really well. So if you want to make 2 batches at once, you can absolutely do that. Just wrap it up tight and pop some in the freezer. I actually have some in there right now. I have it in a silicone stasher bag, so it's not going to get freezer burn or anything like that. You just don't want a lot of air in here, and you're good to go. And a couple minutes in salted boiling water, and it is good to go. You can see how thick the noodles got, which is why it is so important to either roll them or use a pasta machine as thin as absolute possible, because you do not want to have super thick pasta noodles, because that's just no fun to eat. But yes, overall these can store for about 3 to 4 days in either out in the air or in the fridge, and you can freeze them as well for a couple weeks, which is nice. But it's super fun to make. It makes me happy to make it, and it's a long process, but I think it's worth it because this tastes so much better than store-bought. Yes, if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below, and we will see you again soon. Bye. You guys want some pasta? Piece for Tinkerbell. You were here last, Nico. Piece for Kiba. Ow. And here you go, Mickey.